Well, folks, I was going to hit that. And there's the Football Scoop intro. Here we are. Football Scoop podcast is back. I am Scott Roussel. Got Zach Barnett, Doug Samuels on. We're coming in for a short pod today. This came out of last night. Super Bowl's going on. There's about 9 minutes left. Chiefs score. Chiefs were up 1. They score a touchdown. They're up 7. They got a decision to make. Andy Reid's got to decide, do I go for 1 to have an 8-point lead? Do I go for 2 to have a 9-point, hence 2-score lead? Ultimately, y'all know the story. He went for 1. They went up 8. Eagles come back. They score a touchdown. They get the 2. They tie. Chiefs win at the end on a late field goal. We could talk a little bit about that game. I want to talk about that decision specifically to that game, but also in the context of college football and high school football. So here's the scenario. You're late in the game. We're not talking about a first quarter, second quarter. We're talking about fourth quarter, under 10 minutes to play. A game-winning type decision. You're up 1. You score a touchdown. You're now up 7. You have the opportunity to go for 2, to be up 9, or kick it, go up 8. I believe, as Zach tweeted last night, the right move is to go for 2. You go for 2, and you are a 2-score lead if you get it. If you don't get it, you're still winning by 7. I believe in that case, it's more likely that the other team gets the ball, they come down, they're probably going to go for 1. They might play for 2, but depending on the amount of time left, you can control the variables. You have the chance to go get that last score to win the game. If you get the 2, you're up 2 touchdowns, you're up 2 scores. It changes the whole dynamics. Greater chances of winning the game versus being up 8. The other team knows exactly what they got to do. They got to get touchdown and 2-point conversion to tie and see where it goes from there. Zach, I'll give you your thoughts, then I'll hear from Doug, who's former college player, high school coach.
Yeah, so you're kicking the extra point there to turn a 1-score game into a 1-score game. I think that's the most succinct way to put it. As you mentioned before, every decision that we all make in life and every decision a coach makes in terms of game management it boils down to risk reward, and the risk here is very little because obviously it's better to be up 8 than up 7. But even if you miss and your opponent goes down and score, overwhelmingly likely they're going to kick the extra point and they're going to tie the game. So there is some risk there that you could be up 8. Instead, you're hypothetically up 7. But if you get that, a 9-point lead, especially in that situation with 9 minutes to go, completely changes the tenor of the game. It helps your defense because now Philadelphia knows they need 2 scores, so they're going to take on more high-risk behavior, which, increases your possibility of a sack or an interception or anything like that. It makes them know that and it lets your defense know that no matter what happens, your offense is going to get the ball back with the lead. I think it changes everything, and I think as I wrote in my piece, the seesaw, if you're watching between risk reward, is almost about 90 degrees in favor of reward, in my opinion.
All right, Doug, from a coach's perspective, where are you in this one?
I mean, it's a beautiful illustration that might win some people over, but every coach in America goes into the game. On your call sheet, you got your go for 2 situations. After you score a touchdown, are you up 7? I consulted the chart, after reading your deal just to kind of see where it was. And the analytics say kick the field goal. And we all know coaches are very risk averse in those type of situations. I think the other thing that we don't take into account is the personality of that coach on the other sideline, right? Nick Sirianni throughout the entire game is motioning incomplete on incomplete passes like he's a DB out there and staring at the other sideline and emphatically signaling first down. Like if you give that type of personality a chance to go for 2 at the end of the game in his first Super Bowl appearance, that dude's going for 2. And he's got Jalen Hurts on his side that the Chiefs haven't been able to stop on a 3rd and short situation or 4th and short situation the entire game. So I think that makes it really tough. The other thing to think about is if Andy Reid were to decide to go for 2, and he's got a long cut up, I'm sure that the entire Eagles staff poured over on all of his 2-point plays. I think you tip your hand a little bit in that situation as an offensive play caller, him and Eric Bieniemy. I think you tip your hand a little bit when you go out there and you show, hey, that they've got 11 or 12 personnel on the field. Here's the 4 14 plays that Andy Reid has called in these type of situations, and now they can narrow it down a little bit, and it becomes. I think the seesaw tips a little bit in the other way towards the defense's favor if Andy has to show his hand in that
All right.
situation.
All right, step away from the Super Bowl though. Let's talk, high level, middle level high school football. Okay, you're up 1, you score, you're up 7, 6 minutes to go. You have the opportunity to make it a 9-point lead. You got a big bruiser tailback. You're gonna give him a shot to put you up 9 or stay up 7. Your opportunities are 9 or 7, or you kick the extra point. Your kicker's not even that good in high school. To me, it's a no-brainer you go for 2 in that situation. It's not Super Bowl.
My thought, and Doug, I'm not a high school coach. You live this every Friday night in the fall. But my thought is, if you have an opportunity to win a game by your team making one play, and in this situation 9 minutes to go, you're not going to win the game with one play, but you're going to make it overwhelmingly likely that you're going to win the game, but with a 2-score lead in the fourth quarter. If I have one play and I have to gain 3 yards, then I'm going to take that chance, especially if it doesn't work out. More than likely, the worst case scenario is it's a tie game. Then I'm going to go for 2 every single time.
I've been in similar situations to this. I think for a high school coach, your Super Bowl is really your rivalry game. So I try and put myself in those shoes against like our big rival up the road. And I still say that the first thing we do, even before that possession, is I'm checking with my guy up in the box. Hey, what does the chart say? So we're thinking about 2-point plays. I know Bill Belichick's a guy that believes you take emotion completely out of it, and you're making that decision on Thursday for a Sunday night game. I think the Super Bowl is a great example of that probably not being the best way to approach it, in my opinion, just because you don't know the ebbs and flows of the game, what's been successful, where momentum's going. So you can take emotion out of it to a certain degree, but I think it's good to let your emotion play a little bit there. Week 8 in 2019, we were playing our big rival for the conference title. Would have been Urbana's first conference title in 20 years, I think. And we were in the open. Well, the minus 36. It was 4th and 1. We had a 7-point lead. I actually told the team that if we won, they could shave my beard on the field, and I was going to rub my beard into the field so it was there forever on their turf. So that had them pretty amped up. But we snapped it to our 6'5", 220-pound tight end in kind of a direct snap situation. And he had gotten at least 3 yards all year long. We only needed 1, and he got stopped. Momentum completely turned. They scored 2 plays later, forced overtime, and then won in overtime or double overtime. So, I took that approach like, hey, I'm going to put it all on our kids. Like I trust in our kids so much. But I also knew the personality of that other coach in the sideline. I feel like that played a role in that as well. And I think that's really what something like that comes down to in the Super Bowl. I think it's overlooked a little bit, is that head coach on the other sideline. What's he like, and what's he going to do? If they were to score and tie it up, or they needed to go for the win, that they were going to go for 2. Absolutely.
So I think that dovetails into something that's really interesting in that coaches coach, to give themselves the best opportunity to win. But I think hidden somewhere in there is, I'm going to make the conventional decisions because if it doesn't work out, it's going to lead to less blowback from me. And, 100%. Doug, you going for 4th and 1, not getting it, I'm sure you got plenty of blowback. And that's a situation where it works out for you 70-80% of the time. And so I think, as we as a football viewing public get more educated in the game, I think we have to, and I think the public is becoming more accepting of the fact that, I'm going to take this risk that has a 70% chance of working out, but I understand there's that 30% chance that it may not happen. And it's just, when you boil a 7 in 10 likelihood of, a 6'5", 220 tight end trying to get 1 yard, but it's a binary. It's either he gets it or he doesn't. You're boiling, something that works out for you 70 times out of 100 into 1. I think a large portion of the public, can't handle that reality. And, we're farther along than we were in 1960, but I still think, a lot of people would be like, well, should have punted. And they just can't wrap their minds around that. And so I think a lot of coaches just coach with, well, chart says this, and if I follow the chart and it doesn't, and we don't win the game, well, I didn't make the wrong decision. The chart made the wrong decision.
And analytics did, yeah. But the other thing is all the stats you rely on for those situations, the 7 times out of 10 or whatever you want to say, those are in regular season games that are not nearly as big of a stage, or the seat is not as hot as that situation. There's nothing else to compare for the high school coach. That's a state championship game, or for us, a rivalry game. So that it's just a completely different animal in the Super Bowl. But you're absolutely right.
That's why
I've
coaches coach
examples here. I know we're trying to be brief here, but I got 2 examples here. Doug, you mentioned this. This is a decision that you make Thursday night or whatever. So 1969, number 1 Texas is playing number 2 Arkansas. It's the big shootout. Richard Nixon's going to be there. They're going to award a national championship trophy after the game. Like, it's quite possibly the biggest regular season college football game of all time. Dale Royal and his staff the night before the game decide, if we get down 14, we're going for 2 after our first touchdown. Because the thinking was, if we get it, then we can win the game with the next touchdown. And if we don't get it, then we can still tie the game by going for 2 on the second touchdown. So lo and behold, they fall behind 14-0, score touchdown, get it. So now it's 14-8. Then they hit a big 4th and 3 pass, score touchdown. Now they kick an extra point. They win the game 15-14, and it was the biggest win in program history until the 2005 national championship game. Now the other side here, this is a game that has largely been forgotten to history, but it always stuck with me. 2010, Oklahoma's number 1. They're going on the road to play 11th ranked Missouri. They fall behind 36-21 with 6 minutes left. Score touchdown to make it 36-27. Everyone's thinking, okay, you're going to kick the extra point and make it a 1-score game, an 8-point game, a quote-unquote 1-score game. Well, Bob Stoops goes for 2 because he's thinking, well, if we get it, then we know for a fact we can tie the game with an extra point at 36-36. So we're going to try and make the score 36-29. And if we don't get it, well, we're better off knowing now that we need 9 points than just thinking we need 8 when we might really need 9. So they didn't get the extra point. They ended up going on to lose the game 36-27. A lot of people roasted Bob Stoops for that decision. And I thought he was right at the time. I thought he was right here 13 years later. And now I'm on a podcast defending a decision that was made 13 years ago.
What would really make your head explode, Zach, is if in the Super Bowl last night, they would have went for 2 and threw a goal line fake. I know
No,
don't
do that. They do have AJ Brown. Come on.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness, what a game!
That's an argument for another time.
Yeah. All right. So I thought we might have consensus. I thought everybody might agree with me, but no, it's okay. Again, that's why coaches coach the game. We don't just have robots calling these things. You don't just go by the book. At some point, you got to read the field and say, all right, this is the best decision.
Right.
Gentlemen, always a pleasure. Golly, I'm really looking forward to the next round of football. Some people are going to despise me for saying this, but I'm not talking about the USFL, which apparently starts in 2 months. Thanks, Fox. I'm talking about college football in August. Let's go, boys. Talk to y'all soon.